65 years and 3 generations, we are changing the fact that people who think that they can't be a homeowner, we're changing it that anybody and everyone who wants to be a homeowner deserves homeownership.
Absolutely.
And we will make that happen, right?
Yes.
My grandma always grew up with kind of the mantra and the saying of, people will forget what you said and did, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel, right?
Yeah.
And that was embedded and ingrained in me, as a kid growing up.
Okay, here we are, episode 8, Rate of Success. I am thrilled, excited, honored to have the one and only Kathy and Nikki Miles. I have been blessed to know Kathy and Nikki for a long period of time. We've worked together, we've hung out together socially, and have probably more fun outside of work than we do work. So it's only natural that we were going to sit down and have this discussion. So thank you so much for coming here. Obviously, so much to talk about, so much of your story that I want to make sure we cover. But first and foremost, just tell me a little bit about, your business, how long you've been in the business, where you work now, and just a little bit about yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for allowing us the privilege to be with you.
Yeah.
You know how much I admire and love you. So we are just thrilled to be here. I have been in the business, as a matter of fact, June of this year, 35 years.
Amazing.
And I'm with Remax Action, and I just have such a passion for what I do, and I just love it.
Wonderful. And then you somehow got your daughter into the business.
Somehow that happened, yeah. So I never would have believed it myself, but it's the biggest privilege of my life, getting to be the 3rd generation of the Miles team.
Yeah. So I guess the question I have for you is, and I always ask this to everybody, is, I always say nobody plans to be in the mortgage business or the real estate business. We all kind of end up here like by, I don't want to say mistake, but like a series of events. Now, obviously for the Miles team, it really starts with your mom.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's, 3 generations that are in the business. So there's a lot to live up to. There's a lot of history there. So did you always know when your mom was in the business that it was only natural that you were going to be in the business?
It's funny. Absolutely not. When I was little, I remember going to open houses with her, and I would help with all of that. And I worked for Division National Car Rental, and I was #1 in sales for the whole country for that. And then typical corporate America, when you start making that kind of money, they start trying to divide how much you're making, and they divide your territories. And I finally said, you know what? I'm going to be like my mama. I'm going to pave my own way. I'm going to follow after her.
Yeah.
And I will be 100% in control of what I do and how I do it. And I had the most amazing role models. So it ended up by accident, but it turned out to be the biggest blessing ever.
Was there a part of you that wanted to prove to your mom that you could do something else? Was that why you got into corporate world, or was there something that drew you to the corporate world before going to real estate?
Excellent question. I guess I just never thought that I would be successful at it.
Yeah.
Because my mom was so successful. We worked out, we lived in Western Springs, so my mom was so successful. Being new, I never thought I could hold a candle to her, so I just kind of paved my own path. And then I kind of got into it by, I want to be in control of my destiny like her.
Yeah.
And because she was so successful, I was able to kind of piggyback off of her. I would definitely not be the person I am today or the broker I am today.
So was that intimidating though for you also to see, kind of follow in your mom's footsteps? I mean, that had to be hard. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on that as well. But I mean,
Absolutely.
Was that hard because, when you see your mom doing it so well and being successful, then all of a sudden you're in your, following your mom, that's a lot of pressure.
But believe it or not, it was none, because my mom was so amazing. She was like, Kathy, of course you can do this. Of course you're going to be successful. She was always kind of the wind beneath my wings. So it was never anything to feel funny about, because the bottom line is she so loved and believed in me. How could I not be successful?
Yeah.
Especially with her kind of pushing me along. But Nicole has an amazing part of the story. I'm going to let her share
so for Nicole, for you, it's even a little bit different. So obviously, grandma's grandma,
Right.
who's also a realtor. Okay.
Yes.
then mom.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. I certainly had some big heels to fill. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly. So you have both of them in the business. That can be
Yeah.
very intimidating.
Absolutely.
And some would maybe say, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to do something different. But then somehow you got drawn into the business. So what was that, kind of thought process like? Was it ever a thought that you wouldn't do this?
It's so funny because my whole life I was like, there's no way I would ever do this. Because again, I mean, I genuinely did have such massive heels to fill, right?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm so blessed that, having the last name that I do. But I mean, and my mom has the reputation that she has, but the tenacity and the drive it took her to get there, right? I recognize that all of my actions would have a reaction, right? And that was something where I was one of those where that's a really high bar that she has set that I have to live up to make sure that my actions reflect her and our last name, right? In a way that they would be proud of. So it was something where for a very long time I thought, I don't think I'd be able to live up to those heels, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, just circumstances in life happened that one day, she's like, I really think it's time we kind of rethink this. And it's one of those things where I like genuinely grew up, and it probably wasn't until I was about 18 years old when I realized that the 4-letter F word was not FSBO. For sale by owner. Because I grew up at the kitchen table my whole life hearing real estate. I mean, it's one of those things where I remember going to Disney all the time as a kid, right? And every couple of years when my mom would be coming back because she'd be having to take, her exam, the 2 years of the continuing education. For fun, she'd make extra copies with me, right? And we'd be sitting on the plane and she'd be like, let's race. And I distinctly remember one time I did it faster than her and she was like, you scored higher than me, right? And
not that that's surprising.
She was like, oh my gosh, you've actually been listening all along, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where just, I think, life just sometimes brings you to where you need to be and opens up doors. And I think especially, when I was like, to my mom's point, she had my grandma who was the wind beneath her wings. I realized the epiphany happened where I don't have, big heels to fill because I get the privilege and honor of walking alongside her.
Yeah. So on that, because I want to make sure I mention this. So, as long as I've been working with both of you, okay, there's something about you that you meet a lot of people in this business. And I've said this to both of you before, like you meet a lot of people in this business and they never really leave kind of a mark on you. You kind of just go through and you don't, get that return of, I don't know, investment in them. But, I hate the way that sounds, but, you have both been so supportive of my business, my team. You're so great to the people that are around you. It's not just, my team. So,
but you are the best.
Well,
we pride ourselves
but I think it's more than
surrounded
that.
with the best.
Yeah, not to interrupt you, but I think it's more than that. This is who both of you really are, okay? And it's also how you've run a business. Like, where does that come from? Because it's not, you're in this business for 35 years. You've dealt with a lot of other people in this business. And I always notice that the other realtors always speak so highly of you, okay, when I talk to them. The broker owners, attorneys, everybody, there's this, kind of aura that goes around both of you that people really speak highly of you. And it's something that, obviously you don't think about because if you did, it would come across different than it does. Like, where did that start? Is that from mom? Is that how your mom was? Or where does that stem from?
I think I might want to take
You know
this
what?
away.
I would love for you to take this.
My grandma always grew up with kind of the mantra and the saying of, people will forget what you said and did, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. Right?
Yeah.
And that was embedded and ingrained in me, as a kid growing up. And essentially, she had that same point because that was my grandma, right? This was her mom.
Yeah.
Right? So we both learned that same mantra from her. And I think that's, something that was forever ingrained and embedded in us to your point that is who we are. And it's not something that we make a conscious effort of, we want to go ahead and develop these relationships and business connections. We genuinely do care about people, right? Because it's a people first before business. And I mean, to that point, I have a mom who past clients, right? After getting them in a new home, it was a newly engaged couple, because they were getting a new home and planning a wedding, in one of the showings, the bride, soon to be bride made a comment like, I'm really, kind of bummed, just things are kind of tough right now, between buying a new home and planning for the wedding. So I think I'm going to have to pass on my bridal shower, right? And like, this is one of those moments where I'm just like so privileged and blessed to have the mom that I do. And in the middle of business, right, Kathy stops and she was like, may I throw you a bridal shower?
Yeah.
So she opened up, her home to this bride and 60 of her closest, family and friends, and decorated, did all of these things because she was like, this isn't about the business. This is about the person, right?
Yeah.
And she deserves to know that she's loved and she's valued. And I think that, of every person I met, right, my mom has that gift of making people feel valued and making people feel important.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things that I admire her so much. And I certainly try to emulate and duplicate that, in my life.
Well, it's just, we are just so blessed to be surrounded with such amazing people, but we also make the conscious decision to who we surround ourselves with. And especially being in the business so long, I have the privilege to pick and choose who I want to work with.
Yeah.
New in the business, you just hope and pray somebody likes you and want to work with you. The longer you've been doing this, you're more like, these are the people I choose to work with. And it's the biggest investment of somebody's life. And when they entrust you with something like that, if you're on vacation, you negotiate the contract for them, because the bottom line is, if they're entrusting you to something this important, you owe it to them to be there. But again, like my mom always said, it's not a transaction. You have to remember that this is like somebody's life. This is where they're going to raise their children. They're going to do all this. And if they're choosing you to work with, that is an absolute honor and privilege.
Yeah.
And that's something that I absolutely don't take lightly. But I'd love for Nicole, and I'm just, everybody that knows how unbelievably proud I am of her, she's making her beautiful mom in heaven just smile every day, because she has so much going for her, but she just genuinely loves people. She always does the right thing. She goes out of her way for other agents to be able to help them, to work with them. People today don't realize you need to work as a team. What does team stand for? Together, everyone achieves more. And like Nikki said, nobody will ever remember what you said or did, but they remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
When you have the privilege to get that close with people, it's an honor to be able to be like a team. But I want Nick to be able to go ahead and share how we officially got in the business, which I think is going to help you understand
I think it's
a little
important.
more.
I think it's important. I will say this too. I think you're being a little bit modest, both of you are, about this, because I feel like the way that you are attracts the people in your life more than you seek it out. Meaning, I think people are attracted to who you are and how you've been to other people and how you treat people. And that's a very big difference. I always say it's a law of attraction. There's a lot of that where, I think the way that you are and the way that you treat your customers brings people to you more than you guys are out. You guys don't do a lot of fancy marketing. You don't do a lot of you're attracting people who want to work with you and your brand more than, I think a lot of people in this business, they're constantly trying to find their next customer. They're, they're doing marketing, they're doing mailers, and they're trying to, because they're very transactional.
Absolutely.
You have built a business very relationship based, and, obviously you have your story, but it's more of how you treat people, to your point, and how you is what people are attracted to and why people want to work with you, because they're not just a customer.
Right. Absolutely.
I've been to your parties at your house. You talk to people, and it's like everyone is a customer or someone that you've worked with, and they'll always tell you stuff like, oh, well, Nikki did this, or Kathy did this, or everyone has a story. I always think it's just me. They're just this great to me. But
no, but you know how much we love you.
I know.
You're our favorite.
I'm
you know
just
that.
making it about myself.
And you're the same kind of person.
But you have all these things that you do for everybody else. Okay, let's talk a little bit about. I know there's a story with how your mom got into business.
Right.
That's really important.
It's amazing.
So why don't we talk a little bit about that, and just because I think it gets to the heart of why you feel so passionately about. I know you're proud of the generational, 3 generations. I know you reference it a lot. And let me say this too, before we get to that, just to tell you about how amazing Kathy is, okay? Because I just want to, when I first met Kathy, she didn't know me very well, but we bonded over something that had nothing to do with real estate. Yes. My mother-in-law had just passed away, and I had opened up to her about, that experience. And my wife was very, very close with her mom. You took it upon yourself you reached out to Jen and you met with her. And it's something that I will always remember because it's difficult for Jen because Jen didn't want to talk about it. She didn't really feel like anybody understood, but you obviously understood.
I did.
And that was very helpful. So, it always left a mark, with me, but you didn't do it because you had to. You didn't do it because you were trying to get business with me or whatever. In a lot of ways, maybe it even helped you to, talk about your mom.
It did.
And to talk with someone else. So I just always want to say thank you for
Jen,
that.
oh my gosh. And Jen and I bonded over that because again, it's like explaining color to a blind person until you've experienced it. And I pray it's a lifetime until you do.
Yeah.
It's something that only somebody that's been through it can get it. And that's why I loved you and I knew I was going to love her, which through that lunch, she became such a close friend.
Yeah.
But I got it. You know what I mean? And it was a privilege to be able to be there for her. And it did help me because she also understood because we were exactly in the same position.
It just goes to show like how much your business is not really a business. It's relationships. And I think a lot of people make this business so much harder than it is.
Absolutely.
And it's just relationships.
It's 100% of our business, repeat business and referrals.
We don't do any marketing, right? As you know, and I think it's very, I think we're very fortunate to be one of the very few who, I don't really know any other agents in the business who don't do marketing, right? Because everyone always asks us, what do you guys do? And we are so fortunate to say, we don't need to because 100% of our business is referrals. And again, to your point, I do believe it all comes back to, maybe they, of course, they love their home and that they're so thrilled. We did such an excellent job in finding them the perfect home. But they also, it wasn't just, up until they got in their home, right? Then they became like an extension of the Miles team family, right? And then, we later on host, bridal showers or in, certain instances, right? Like one specifically comes to mind for me. I got to go back and help, it was a first-time home buyer couple. And when she got pregnant, actually, I was the first one she called before she told her husband because she was like, when we stood in this room and you said, first-time buyers always have all the questions, right? How am I going to know this is it? And my thing is, when you know where you're putting your Christmas tree, then this is the home for you because you can envision your life in this house and you see it, you see celebrations, you see all of the beautiful memories that come. So that's when, the house becomes a home and that's, it's for you. And I remember walking around the house with her and I said, is this going to be your baby's nursery, right? And she grabbed my hand and she was like, this is the house, right? So, of course, we won, and she got a beautiful home. And I'm so, thrilled that they had, such a perfect home. But what really left such a mark on me is the fact that she called me and told me before her husband because she was like, you are instrumental because you are the reason why we're in this home. And I want you to help pick out the nursery colors, right? Yeah. So I got to go stand in the room of a baby's nursery, right? Who their dad doesn't even know is on the way. And the real estate agent knows first, right? Like how many other people get to have that opportunity, So it's just
awesome with such a beautiful
Well, and I think it speaks though to kind of at the heart of why your business model works is that, and I always say this, is like right around now, so Thanksgiving to Christmas, I always think about, all these families in their homes, like creating memories. And I tell my team this all the time. And you think about how many memories you have as a child in your home. Okay. Some great, some bad, but they're memories. Okay. And here we, do all this work and we sacrifice a ton to help people achieve that, I always joke around like box of memories. I mean, that's essentially what a home is, okay?
Absolutely.
So we lose sight of that sometimes, okay? And I think what's interesting about a mother-daughter, kind of working together is you've been in it for 35 years. I've been in the business for 20. Sometimes we lose sight because we do it all the time, okay? But then all of a sudden, it's like, you see so many things through your child's eyes, okay?
It's so true.
Disney and all these things. It's like you enjoy that. But now you're seeing real estate again in a different way than you saw it when it was just yours.
Right.
And it's great to see your daughter successful, but does it also make you appreciate real estate again in a different way, seeing Nikki do it compared to, when you were,
Absolutely, because it's funny because keep in mind, when I got in the business 35 years ago, my mom had told me, call everybody with the exciting news that rates are down to 10% and only 3 points. Okay. Then when they went down to 9 and 3, oh my gosh, we threw a party.
Yeah.
So, and I also remember having the multiple copy contract that you'd have to say press hard multiple copies. Because that was the way you did it. And then when a fax machine came along, oh my gosh, that was the answer to our prayers.
Yeah.
So with all the technology and everything that makes this business so different, but where I'm most proud of her, and she's amazing at that end, I'm the type that I don't care where water comes from. I just want to go to the sink and make it work.
Yeah.
So she and the team come and it takes care of all the technology. But even in spite of all of that, she goes out of her way with the personal touch. People today think everything is about just send an email, send a text. Hearing her talk with her, with the people, I see it differently, and it reminds me of when I was new in the business. So it's kind of like when you would take Jake to Disney and you have a chance and you get to see it again through his eyes.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of a cool thing of I'm in awe sometimes of I'll hear myself through her or I'll hear my mom in her. And it's such a gift from God that I do enjoy it because I just see the way she is and the way she is with people and the way she is with the respect for other brokers and kind of an industry that people more try to make the other one look bad so they can look better.
Well, I mean, I think that's a big part of our business now, unfortunately, is I said this to Gary when he was here, is like industry is right now, the biggest struggle we have is everyone, we're number one, we're this. Like there's no like synergy in the business right now. And right now, more than ever, we need synergy.
Right.
Like we do. We need people because the consumer is lost. Think about everything we just went through for the last 8 months and you know, with the commission debate and all this stuff, we were all confused. Imagine where the consumer is. Then you have record high home prices, you have elections, you have all this stuff, the consumer. And here we got people posting, you know, we're number one, you know, everything's about, we're missing the point kind of.
Well, like Nicole always says, if you have to promote yourself as I'm number one, you pretty much aren't.
People want it for you.
Yes.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about your mom, because I think there's a great story of how she got in the business.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
But nobody tells it better than Nicole.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So 65 years ago, Marge Miles, my grandma, we lost her in 2015, but I think, you know, we are so fortunate that her legacy continues on because we do talk about her so much because not only, you know, did she shape us into the personal people we are, but she shaped us into the professionals that we are. And, you know, it's also such a privilege getting to work alongside agents who knew her, right? And it's a very fun situation to be in. But I got to reflect on how and everything came to be. And it was because 65 years ago when she, at the time, had just lost her husband, my mom's dad, to a heart in his valve that was closing. My grandmother had 2 young kids and went to go buy her first home and went to go buy it. And it was a male agent who was representing the seller and just said, I don't feel that a woman should be buying a home without a husband, so we will not allow you to purchase this home. Right?
Crazy.
So that happened 65 years ago. And I know that, you know, a lot of people would be, you know, of course she was devastated, right? But she said, you know, I see a problem and I'm going to be the solution to this problem. And I am not going to allow anyone else to ever be in the situation that I am. I am going to change this. And, you know, 65 years and 3 generations, you know, we are changing the fact that people who think that they can't be a homeowner, we're changing it that anybody and everyone who wants to be a homeowner deserves homeownership. Absolutely. And we will make that happen, right?
Yeah.
And all of that starts with Marge Miles 65 years ago.
That's crazy.
Isn't that cool?
I love that. And I think it's important because it says a lot about your brand and who you are and your motivations and your why. You know, it's always big and, you know, really important. You mentioned something in that I'm curious about. So being 3rd generation, okay, you have a great group of friends, okay? Homeownership, you know, for your age group looks very different today than it did for other generations.
Right.
And what does that conversation look like for people? Because people are worried about a lot of different things. They have access to a lot of different things. There's a lot of noise that when, you know, even 10 years ago, there wasn't the flow of information that there is today.
Right.
So how do you use your experiences with your mom and grandma to help shape, you know, kind of the younger generation into homeownership? Because I feel like, you know, that's kind of your unique gift is to be able to kind of take the experience from, because we got to remember, most people don't enter this business with mom and grandma, okay, kind of leading the way.
For sure.
They enter the business and they go to coaching. They end up on a team of people they don't know. You're with your mom, okay? Right. But you have all this experience that you're now, so how does that shape how you handle first-time home buyers, younger people? How does that help you? And does it hurt you at all?
Well, honestly, I think the most impactful thing, and again, I really owe it so much to my mom and grandma, is they certainly take the approach of, we believe so much in education, right? I think the issue is because there is so much noise out there. It's a matter of, I want to educate anyone and everyone who's interested in homeownership that they can feel empowered and make informed and educated decisions, right? Yeah. It really is not that hard, but I think so many agents are so, look at me, I'm so great, look at me, The thing is that the reality is the clients don't care because they want to know how it affects them, right? Unless you're the one buying the home for them. They don't care how great you are is what it comes down to, right? They have to make decisions where, they feel like I'm educated and I nobody made the decision for me. And I think that's what's so important is my mom always says, it's back to the basics, right? Everyone's like, not that technology and everything hasn't changed the way that the real estate industry, has progressed over the past couple of years, especially. But what it comes down to is the basics of people to people and taking time to sit with them in person, right? I call it buyer bootcamp, right?
Yeah, it's
when
amazing.
I sit with my buyers, they have so many questions, right? And I think so many people do, we're going to do everything via Zoom or Skype. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, that loses the personal touch. And I want to get to know my clients on a personal basis, right? Yeah. This isn't a transaction to me. This is something we're down the line, right? I want to, be invited back to the baby showers, right? Yeah. I want to be invited to, seeing the little ones, going to birthdays. I love being invited to events that past clients host. And it's a privilege that we, are welcomed into their homes, but it turns into we're actually welcomed into their hearts. And that's what's so beautiful. Yeah. And it all starts with educating them that they feel informed and that they made the right decision for their family. Because ultimately what everything comes down to at the end of the day is, are they making the right decision for their family? My input, and my expertise will only get them so far. But I want to get to the point that they say, I have all of my facts straight, Nicole, I'm empowered, let's do this.
Yeah. But they also so trust her because they know not only is she amazing at what she does, but more importantly, she genuinely cares about them and does the right thing for them. And people know when you're in it just for a sale or if you genuinely care and they trust her.
I also think it helps when I'm like, listen, we've been doing this for 65 years and 3 generations. I'm not going anywhere, right? So whether it be today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I'm still going to be here. So I move at your pace, right?
Yeah. I think and I love that. You mentioned the word that if you separated my team, every single one of them, you said, what's the word that Eric says the most over the last, 6 months is it's education. Yeah. Like to me, I feel like it's kind of like when everyone says that brand is important. I feel like people say, oh, well, education is important. But I think it's even more than that. And I think you've hit on a lot of what, kind of the same principles that I try to focus our team on is the more that you focus on that upfront process and you educate them, it can save you so much time later in the process. But more importantly, it gives the consumer the feel that they are, there was a lot of stats during COVID where, 60% of people bought a home and they regretted the purchase because everyone was just buying homes just because they thought that that's what you need to do because rates are low and I'm going to rush out and I'm going to buy something. And I think, if there's anything good to come out of the compensation situation is that upfront buyer boot camp, but you were already doing it before. So you were prepared.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a huge thing. So let me ask you this. So you have that whole process, okay? Yes. And you did a lot of that. Yes. And I'm assuming that was a lot of mom's input, okay? But it was also probably, I have a feeling that was more you. But I want to talk about, I know how much you've learned, from your mom.
The amount of times, truly, that every day happens and I say something and I'm like, I'm turning into my mom. I officially am my mom, right? We're past the point of turning
that only gets worse as you get older. I hate to break it to you, but what have you learned from Nikki? Because I think there's probably a lot of times that you look at your daughter and you're like, I'm proud of her is an understatement. But are you learning, experiencing kind of going through this? Are you learning a different way to do the business because of, you're now looking at it from Nikki's eyes.
There is no doubt about
Yeah.
it. I mean, obviously, anybody that knows me knows she is the love of my life, and I am so proud of her.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of her for the success she has done. And I learned from her because she's so real and she genuinely cares about people. And that's the one thing that I think is so missing in this industry. People are so worried about their next sale that we don't sell houses, we sell homes.
Yeah.
And the way, like, how I'll even hear her talk with people. And I mean, just recently, she had a client that wasn't in a position to do anything and apologized profusely to her. Please don't think I was wasting your time. I value you. I appreciate you. How often do you get somebody to actually do that? Even on the very rare occasion when Nikki's up against multiple offers, she wins 99% of the time unless somebody has cash.
Yeah.
And then she loses. But I'll even hear agents that'll go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I so wanted you to win. And what's so cool is I've got people that attended her baby shower that she's now doing business
Crazy.
with.
Yeah.
And they're just like, your daughter is amazing. She's so professional. I know that, but now the world knows what I've always known.
Yeah.
So I just learned from her to kind of, again, go back to the basics and to just kind of see the young broker in me. I get the privilege to see in her every day.
Do you feel your business has changed since Nikki has gotten more involved in the business? Do you feel like
absolutely.
Yeah, do you feel like there's
Absolutely.
are there things that you have to go to your mom on and say, I would like to do this, and mom's kind of like, I don't know? Or what does that conversation look like?
The thing is, I certainly think, that took place a lot more when I was, newly getting into the business. Because, of course, just like with anyone, it's, well, I just went through I went through the licensing and I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, and then come back to me when that doesn't work, right? And it was one of those things where there was never a judgment, but it was like, I'm going to have to let you learn, because my mom never took the approach of, you're not just going to mooch off of our last name.
Yeah.
You have to be worth your salt. You have to know what you're talking about, but I'm going to have to let you figure it out a couple times. And she was right. I mean, Here it is. She was right. It's being recorded. I should have listened from the beginning.
Because early she went for being, oh, this is Kathy's daughter.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, you're Nikki's mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you know you're doing it right.
So is it
That's when
hard?
you know
Is
you're
it
doing it
hard
right.
to go from kind of mentor to mom? Do you ever struggle between the two where you're in business together?
Yes.
Is it a hard line to, go back and forth on, or because let me say that. Yeah, let me say this. You both, to me, feel like more like your friends than you are mom and daughter. Okay,
Exactly.
because your friends treat Kathy not
I
as
know.
mom. They treat her like a friend.
Oh,
okay?
I know, but yeah.
And you're kind of the same way. Like her friends are kind of like, you guys are all friends. It's a very unique, and it's always something I've respected and enjoyed, getting to know people that you're friends with and enjoying those conversations and everything. But is there ever like a hard line, like being mom and business partner? Like, is it ever hard to kind of separate the two?
I really do not believe there is, because, again, Nikki has the values of how the Miles women do things.
Yeah.
And she would never, ever let us down. I am so proud. Like, she was just on the cover of Real Producer.
Yeah, yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
So for me to be able to step back a little and just see her skyrocket to the top, I am just so proud, because, again, the industry has changed. Again, I'm very blessed that I have all the referrals that I have, that's 100% of my business. I cannot imagine getting into the business newer like she did, with how different things are. So she's just so much more advanced, because she knows how to use all the tools, but she also knows the most important is the relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
And to be able to do that. So I just love sitting back and just watching her soar to the top and be one of the best, because kind of like the old saying, good job, faithful servant, that I can just sit back, and to me, it's just a blessing. I will always be her mom first. She is my ultimate, very best friend, as well as my business partner. And how amazing is that I get all three? But the bottom line is, she's successful in her own right. She's setting her own path. I'm just grateful that I can put on a seatbelt and get ready for the ride.
So I guess one of the questions that I have is that I'm curious about, and I think it's, what does conflict look like between Kathy and Nikki, have you ever had a situation where there was like conflict? Like, how do you handle that?
Because it's easy.
It's easy
for sure.
because in my mind, like you guys are so sweet to one another, but there has to be like, what is it? What is conflict? Because you guys are working together.
Yes.
You have to be mom and daughter. Okay.
Right.
You're in the car together nonstop. You hang out with a lot of the same people.
Oh,
like
yeah,
we
it's
do.
been like
We
this
do.
my whole life.
What does conflict look like?
When we have to fight over which cruise we want to take. If she wants to go Eastern, I want to go Western Caribbean. We got to figure out who's going to win, right?
Okay, so that's conflict. Okay. Because I think that's hard because I have a lot of friends that are in family businesses. Okay. Yeah. And it's a lot of drama.
Right.
A lot of drama.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Dad built the business, son's following in his footsteps. Son never went through the hard hustle that dad did. So there's always a lot of animosity. Yeah. Son gets to live and so there's a lot of drama. And I've always respected because you guys have such a good kind of level understanding of kind of what that looks like.
And we have excellent communication. And again, Nikki does everything to perfection or she doesn't do it at all.
Yeah.
So there's nothing in business. As a matter of fact, like just a lot of the branding and stuff that she has done has brought the Miles team to even a higher level. Yeah. Because again, she knows what's out there. She knows what she can do.
And I think, what's super important to say is there's always, people think there's a lot of conflict because I have to follow in this person's shoes, right? Yeah. And the thing is, and I think when you look at it from that standpoint, it's easy to do because everyone is their own person, right? There are certain things where, everyone has different gifts. And although I am my mom's daughter, there are certain things that maybe I look at a little bit differently than she does. And that's okay. But I think when the mindset shifts from I'm following in her shoes to I'm now walking alongside her, that's what eliminates that, right? Yeah. Because I'm not in competition with my mom, not right? And I think so much comes from people being like, well, I want to make them proud. I mean, anyone in the world knows how proud my mom is of me, right? So that's never anything I have to question. But I think if people were able to change their mindset of like, I'm not in competition with them. Yeah. I get to do this with them, right? That's what has really changed a lot. But I think a lot of the qualities that make the two of you, I'll use tolerable of each other because I think that, again, I think you're both being very modest about it because it's not normal, okay?
And we're very blessed.
I mean, I'm on a team. Like, there's tons of drama. There's, it's something I'm not good at handling. But, there's a lot of emotions. There's, we're helping people. There's a lot of emotions. So building that foundation where you both have such great understanding of kind of roles, respect kind of where you came from is such a big deal to be able to, because then you take all the focus from that. Can you imagine if you both had a lot of this noise between the two of you, you wouldn't be able to provide the same level of service that you do to your clients. So being able to, build this foundation allows you to provide such great. So for anybody kind of starting a team, okay, and getting into the business, what do you think the biggest, everyone's going to give you advice on, what you should do and how you should get business. But I think what you have discovered is really the key, is not creating drama where it doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
So what's the biggest lesson that you think you could give to someone starting out or, maybe working with a team to make it where you're not creating your own drama?
I think the most important thing is to recognize, everyone deserves to give other people grace, but also to yourself, right? Absolutely. And I think one thing I will say is when I first got licensed, right, when people would see on offers, the last name that I had, automatically it was, oh, well, you're Kathy's daughter, so I expect complete perfection from you. So it didn't matter that I, maybe this was my first, deal that I was doing on my own, that I was freshly licensed. Grace that they would give somebody else who was in the same position as me, they did not give to me because it was like, well, that's who your mom is. You need to be exceptional, right? So the thing is, I had a very bit of a different, and it's not lost to me that I had a different experience than, a newer agent, right? And it certainly, I'm very privileged to be in the position that I'm in. But I think so much of it comes down to is you have to give acknowledgement where it's due. Right. And I mean, for 35 years, and it's not just, 35 years of being in real estate, it's 35 years full time. Yeah. And she also did this as a single mom, 100% self-supporting single mom. So the reality is, my mom always taught me in this business, if you don't hunt, you don't eat. So what did that mean? Well, although we would be at Disney World on vacation, she'd be, getting off rides, calling clients back saying, hey, this is what's going on. This is where we're at in this offer, right? It's one of those things where it's all about balance. And when I ended up, getting my license and working alongside her, of course, sometimes I was like, I should do this my way. I did it my way, and it typically didn't go very well. And how did it end? I did it her way. But I kind of have to take that loss for myself to realize she's not telling me this is my mom. She's telling me this because she's already made the mistakes. And instead of having to make them to learn from them, if I give her the respect which she's earned and the success which speaks for itself, it would have saved me a lot of headaches when I was new in the business myself. So
I think you touched on something that's really important, is that I think sometimes parents, they call it helicopter parenting. We want to control the environment that our kids are in. Your mom let you kind of make mistakes.
She sure did.
Okay. Yeah. And it's something Jen and I talk a lot about Jake, and it's like you got to let them fail a little bit, right? Because that's where the lesson's learned.
Yes,
and that's where you got to really do that. So I think it's important that your mom let you do that, because that's what shaped where you are now.
Absolutely.
The success that you've had is kind of going through those things. So it's hard at times because we don't want to see.
It's awful.
Yeah, you don't want to see your kids go through struggle because you know that they're doing something wrong. But at the same time, there's a lesson to be learned.
Yep. And when you have great communication.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, like Nikki hit it of, I'm not just trying to tell you because it's my way or the highway or this is how I do it. She's her own person, and she's obviously exceptional of the way that she's handled things. But it's a matter of I'm trying to share her from some of the mistakes I made and time wasters, et cetera, of here's why I'm saying what I'm saying versus you're just going to do it this way because I'm second generation.
I say it all the time in the office. Tom and Skip and them get upset when I say it, but I say it all the time. Being in a situation like this or in my office, it's a blessing and a curse, okay? It's a blessing because you get to see, oh, look at this. I have this resource. I have this. We have a podcast too. We have all these things, okay?
Yeah.
It's a curse because we have all those same things. Right. And you don't see the struggle that you got, that people go through to get to the point where they're at.
Right.
And it's, that's the biggest struggle when you're mentoring people or you're bringing people into this business, is making sure that it's not too easy, and you don't make it look easy. Like, because it can be very, I've been in this business 20 years, my phone rings, like all these things happen, like, but that's not reality. Like that's not, so it's always a blessing and a curse. So I'm sure, there are times when this is great to experience, and I'm sure you went through the same thing with your mom. It's a blessing that you had your mom, but then it's also a little bit of a curse in a way because she had all these relationships. It made it look easier than it was, and you go through this moment where you're like, oh, wait a second, it isn't as easy as I thought.
Absolutely.
My mom is what made it look easy.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But what is also the blessing in this, and here's probably the best example, Nikki's very first deal back in the height of when everything was so crazy. I ended up having to have a root canal, and I was totally out of it. So I couldn't help her. So she's in the middle of trying to do this deal. Who does she call?
Eric
the amazing
Hamilton.
Eric Hamilton. You helped walk me through everything.
I remember that.
She beat 32 other offers on this house. Her first deal, because I was totally knocked out from having the root canal. Yet you were up with her at like 11 o'clock at night, walking her through. When you surround yourself with amazing people, and that's why I'm just so honored to call you part of our team.
Well, I appreciate that, but let's talk about that a little bit, because you have a very specific team that you use. Your attorney,
have the best of the best.
Your home inspector, like you're very specific about that. And kind of where did that come from? Because again, not everyone runs their business that way. They, but again, it goes back to the relationships.
Absolutely.
Because, I know the way you are with, the people you're, going over to their house for dinner, taking care of them better than, a lot of other people take care of them. And like, that's just who you are. And, so it's not just the people that, you help buy and sell homes. It's all the other people so is that just all a continuation of kind of mom and...
And where we're so blessed is because, again, when we tell people we have the ultimate best team, they always go, oh, everybody says that. I said, well, they might, but do they have 65 years and 3 generations? It's taken us that long to find the people that we work with. You are the only lender we would use. We are proud to have our name on you because you genuinely care about people. It's not just another loan. You have the most amazing team.
And I think it's important to interject. The only thing that matters, right, is I think there's a lot of agents who think, well, in order to create value, you want to give out different options, right? We look at it very different. If I'm buying a home, the only person doing my loan is Eric Hamilton.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right?
But it's the reality of it. It's one of those things where when you want the best of the best, I don't believe in giving lists. I believe in if I was doing this, this is who I would use. So to me, there is no other name.
Well, and I think to take it a step further, that's what people, we talk about compensation all the time. That's what people are compensating you for.
Absolutely.
Is your team, your process.
Like Bob Galgan is the best attorney.
Yeah.
We work with people that we would work with ourselves.
Yeah.
And we know they're going to give the exact same kind of service we are. So who wins? The client.
Yeah.
Not to mention when you have years of an incredible working relationship in addition to a personal relationship, but clients don't care about personal friendships. He's exceptional professionally at what he does, right? And that's why, again, it all comes down to, could you give you a list? Will I? Absolutely not.
But I think that's what makes the relationship stronger with the people that you work with, is it allows you, because you just hand it off, and you let us take care of it, and you let the people take care of the things, it allows you to have more time to focus on the consumer. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people lose sight of, when you're having to constantly check up, or you're worried about things, you're focusing here and not at the consumer.
If we have to micromanage people on our team, we have the wrong people. Like when we give you a loan, it's never a thought, because the bottom line is you've got them taken care of up front. We know they're going to close. The same thing with Bob Galgan, the same thing with anybody else that we have. We know the client, because they always come back and they say, oh my gosh, this process was so easy.
Yeah.
But they don't see how all of us behind the scenes have been like the little hamster in the wheel, making things work.
Absolutely. So the other thing I wanted to discuss with you, which I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's some realtors that are like very, very type A with a process, okay? And they have this form for this form for this. And what I love about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're so focused on the customer. I kind of feel like you interview a client, okay? And you kind of get their personality, their way of how they're going to respond to stuff. And I know you're very specific about the way you do things, but I also feel like there's certain agents that will tailor their process to the consumer more than, just you're along for the ride. This is how I work, and this is what you're going to do. I feel like you have a very personable, for the situation that they're in. You work with a lot of seniors.
Absolutely.
You can't always just tell a senior, this is how you do it, and this is the way we're going to do it. There's a lot of emotions there. And so am I correct in to say that you're very, you have a process, but it's not like set in stone when you go in on a listing?
For sure, absolutely. And I think to that point, it's case by case basis. And I think there's a lot to be said for, when we do go meet new clients for the first time, right? If we're going to be representing the sellers, right, then we're going to go in for the listing agents, we also have to recognize, are these clients that we want to work with, right?
Yeah.
Because if somebody's going to be super difficult, right, we know, with that being said, if they're going to constantly, not entrust us when we give you the best of the best names, right? If you want a long list of all these people, you aren't trusting us for the expertise and the 65 years and 3 generations and the success record that we have, right? If you aren't going to see that for what it is, maybe we aren't the best fit for you, right? And with that being said, we want to make sure every client who we work with, we give them the absolute best of the best service, that they come back being like, they've become an extension. I always say when I run into past clients at the grocery store, right, I want them to go ahead and be like, look at all the renovations we've done. Let me pull up my phone, show you all the renovations we've done to the house. I don't want them throwing eggs at me, right? That's how I look at it, right? So we want to make sure when we go to meet somebody, is this a good fit for everyone all around? And especially to that point, since a big, bulk of, my mom's business is seniors, when I am in those listing appointments, we need to recognize when a lot of them bought the home, the whole real estate industry was incredibly different, right?
Yeah,
so when they now hear, well, what do you mean, the buyer is signing this contract online, right? They kind of freak out, where they really need that extra hand-holding, right? That my mom excels at, again, since it's tailored and it's a case-by-case basis, she's willing to sit and talk to them and then talk to their adult children, even if there's 4 of them on different phone calls, because she recognizes the importance of it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, because it's not like one home in the world and we all just sell duplicates of that. Every home is custom, and so is every client that's with that home.
And especially since I do work with so many seniors, a lot of them, they had just lost their spouse. A lot of them are women.
A lot of life events.
Yes, they have not, their kids may not be involved. They want to be able to move to a community. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to downsize. They want to do it. They have no idea what they're doing. We come in, we more hear where they're coming from. Then we sit down and say, we've got you. Here's what we're going to do.
You listen.
We have
which
all
I think,
of this. You have to listen, because everything is case by case. Yes, do we have formulas and do we have routines? Absolutely. But again, it's all about catering to the person.
And I think that's what I was kind of getting at, is what I think is so important, is because people can be very process driven. And it's like, sometimes we think like, well, that's why people are hiring it. But sometimes people just need someone to talk to. Like, and they need to like go through, and they need to have someone listen to them.
And that's what it's
You're
all
still
about.
going to put them on the same path.
Right.
Yes.
But you're going to make it almost seem like it was their idea.
They just want to feel validated,
Yeah,
right? And especially, you know, when you're going through a real estate transaction, you're typically talking about the biggest investment of somebody's life. There's lots of moving parts that go with it. It's so easy. You know, we do this day in and day out. So, I mean, it's not, you know, anything, you know, that's tough for us. But especially if you're talking seniors who hasn't done this in 40, 50, 60 years, when they went to buy their home, they went to the real estate office on the corner, opened books.
We opened a book and looked.
Right.
And a funny story, we just had multiple people, probably like 40-some, that had moved into a community. So we went to go ahead, and this one couple in particular said, it's steak night. Could we please treat you guys to dinner? We said we would be honored to come and have dinner with you. Well, that afternoon, they're sitting talking with 2 other people about saying, our realtors are having dinner with us tonight. And the 2 other women said, well, I'm sure yours is good, but ours was better. And they said, oh no, ours is better. Well, come to find out, we were all of theirs. So when we walked in to the dining room, so many people were there. You would have thought it was royalty. Oh my God, everybody running to come get hugs. And how cool is that? That they went from, I don't know how to do this, I'm overwhelmed, no one's here to help me, to seeing them thrive and then almost stand in line to give us hugs and things.
And that's exactly why we do what we do.
Yes.
Well, and I think you guys do a great job, obviously, with relationships and caring, okay? But there's nobody that I know that can plan a vacation quicker than the Miles team. But
One of our gifts.
So it's funny because we'll talk on a Tuesday, and then you'll call me on a Friday. Be like, we're leaving on a cruise on Saturday. I'm like, didn't we just talk? Like, where did this come from? So, but I think it's an important, for me, I go to Florida a lot. Okay, it's not because for any other reason. It's a way for me to kind of recharge and kind of, I'm better to my clients, to my team, to everybody, because I can get away. When I'm here, I'm go, 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 go. I'm in my office at night. I have a home office. So it's like when I get away, I still work, but it's a way for me to, spend time with Jake, more time, and do things like, so how much does that help both of you?
It's imperative.
Because first of all,
absolutely.
They travel, mom and daughter travel together, okay? And they're not taking vacations like, typical mom-daughter. They're taking like spring break trips, okay? And having fun, and, just living life. Like, I mean, it's something that I think a lot of, moms and daughters would love to have.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And, we love it. One funny story is we were listing a home in Northbrook.
Yeah.
And it was we were there at like noon. We were leaving, and the news was saying that at 6:00 it was going to be massive snow. Well, we didn't have any listing appointments for like the next 5 days, and the news goes on.
I remember this. I totally remember this.
I hear with clients, I'm always Kathy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But one-on-one, I'm always Mom. I hear that tone, like I'm sure you're with Jake.
Yeah.
Mom, I looked at the news, at the radio. I looked at her and I go, let's do it. She's booking a flight.
Because we both posted pictures of the snow the one day and the beach the next day. Because I remember we both posted those pictures. I remember that.
But it's that time of we work so hard and we're always in such business mode because, again, we do not take a day off because, again, I really genuinely feel when a client entrusts you the biggest investment in your life, not that we don't deserve time off, but when they call, you need to call them back, especially if you're negotiating. It has to be top priority. We can do that from the middle of the ocean, which is beautiful.
I think it's more than that, though, because I just was talking with Kelly, and I think there's some parallels in your business that are very important, which when you work by referral and relationships, people will wait to work with you.
For sure.
When you work by leads, it's speed to lead.
Because you're just a file.
If you take the call, you're going to get the lead. If you don't, they're going to go to call someone else.
Yeah, that's not our business.
People wait to work with you.
For sure.
And you can take that time off and people say, you know what? And you can post it and they're not going to be like, I'm going to go to somewhere else because they want you.
Absolutely.
And that's the difference of running a referral-based relationship. I've been saying this a lot lately is the business for a while was, relationship. That's what it was. Then it went away for a while because we had all these shiny objects where people were doing Zillow and, all this stuff. But I see a lot more realtors and lenders going back or trying to go back to relationship because they're realizing that, you pay for leads here. Well, then that changes. And then you got to go over here and you're just chasing this.
We've never, ever done that.
And, having that relationship allows you to travel, to do things because people, will wait for you. So is that something that, have you ever thought about going a different route or was it always just you want to work by referral?
Well, early in my career, because again, my mom was so successful, I was lucky that she would kind of throw me buyers and I would do open houses all the time.
Yeah.
Now, because you fast forward so much, Nikki is now selling some grandkids of people that my mom had sold. So we don't do any of that because, again, to me, it's all about relationship. I've been doing this so long. People always say to me, how do you still love what you're doing as much today as you did 35 years ago? Because I'm blessed that I'm in a position that I can pick and choose who I work with.
Yeah.
Whereas being early in my career, you just prayed the person liked you. They'd say, I want to see a house in 5 minutes. And you'd be like, oh my God, I'll be there in 4.
Yeah.
Now it's a matter of, no, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to do the buyer boot camp. This is how it's going to work. And again, what we're doing is in the client's best interest, but it's going to be the way that we work it out. And it's different versus how the Zillow leads, they're not loyal. It's all about loyalty. And again, when you're good to people, they will never forget that. And they tell their friend and their friend and their friend, and that's where we're blessed. And that's where even Nikki's getting so many leads.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not just transactional. It's like they really cared about me.
And I can appreciate that because it's very similar in my business. If someone calls me and says, what's your rate? And they're calling a bunch, that's not someone I'll more than likely work with.
Absolutely.
If someone calls me and says, hey, I have questions about buying a home, well, I have 4 people dedicated on my team to pre-approvals because we believe in education and going through that upfront process and doing all that work up front because that's where all the magic happens really.
Right.
And, but it also weeds out the people that are just going to be, I think a lot of our business is efficiency.
Sure.
Where we spend our time, who we spend our time on. And because I think it's in the best interest of the consumer, not to just get a rate, make an offer, get a payment, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks before closing, have a ton of questions and concerns because of something they should have discussed in the boot camp up front, or when Tom's doing his call, I'm doing my call. I mean, Tom's talking to him, I'm talking to him. We're trying to go through every question we can. It doesn't work all the time, but it works 90% of the time.
Absolutely.
And I think it's very, very important because that's what people refer. That same buyer boot camp, when you took the time. And if someone says, you know what, you're not going to show me this house, I'm going to go, then that's someone that you would have wasted a bunch of time on that, and it would have resulted in it doesn't fit your business model. And it's very, very important that you know and understand that. So let's have a little fun, okay?
Let's do it.
So if we weren't in real estate,
Oh, goodness.
okay, what do you think you would be doing?
I have to say for my mom, she'd be a party planner.
Okay.
I mean,
well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, she would have to be.
Party planner, or I would love to be a host on Good Morning America.
Well, that would be good. I can see that.
I would love that.
I think you should be a greeter somewhere. There's nobody that enters. There's no one that makes you feel better when you walk in a room than Kathy. Yeah. There's nobody. So you have to be some type of.
That's just because I love you.
Well, some type of corporate greeter somewhere. Yeah. I think that would be.
I don't think they could pay me anywhere near what I want.
Well, if it built relationships like you built, I think they would pay you good. What about what would Nikki be doing?
I would love something like PR related.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that no one said anything about Disney.
Oh no, we would just want to travel.
You just travel.
Yeah, we just travel.
Yeah.
I did my bit working there. I'm good.
Yeah. That's right, because you did work there. So PR. So
because again, I think it so comes down to like the relationship base, and public relations is all relationship based. It's just the different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. That's great. So outside of traveling, is there anything that you both enjoy doing outside? Is there anything that outside of work, outside of traveling? What stress relief? Is there anything that you both do?
Well, we're very passionate, as you know, about dogs and animals, right?
Yes.
Especially, with rescuing animals, we certainly try to advocate for that. And also there's a lot to be said for what a lot of times, we get to, now meet the dog that gets added into the family, right? Which is so special because, typically it's, okay, we're going from the apartment to now we're able to, at least of what I'm seeing, right? We're going from an apartment into a home that now we officially have a yard, right? That now we can get the kids a dog, right? So that's something that we so highly advocate for. And also, again, rescuing is so important compared to going to pet stores. So that's a huge part of, what we do that we're very, very passionate about.
Yeah.
I just so love just spending quality time with her that we have the chance to go out and have a nice dinner, even a bottle of wine. Yeah. But truly our favorite time when we can break from everything. Cruise. Disney was our thing.
Yeah.
I think I take her like 50 times.
Yeah.
Now our big thing, it's funny, my mom's and mine was Cancun.
Yeah.
Now her and my thing is just cruising because you just have a chance to just... As you know, from Florida, you get away, you enjoy the sun, you're refreshed, recharged, you come back and you're like, let's
good.
do
And
this.
when I always say it brings a little clarity
for sure.
Sometimes, because when we're here, we're kind of just in the business mode, and it takes a couple days to kind of unwind those first couple days.
You would agree. We don't get to clock out in this business, right?
No.
Especially when you're here. I mean, you run to the grocery store and it's like, oh my God, there's Nicole Miles, blah, blah, blah. Your mom sold me, the amount of times, especially growing up, when I was younger, I'd be going to Jewel and I remember, whatever I'd give, my card and the cashier would say the last name and it'd be like, oh my God, are you Marge Miles' granddaughter? And I'd say, I am, right? Yeah. And at this point, I'd be rushing because I got to go somewhere and they're like, your grandma sold me my house. Yeah. How is she doing, right? And they want to be, oh my gosh, I'm going to show you the pictures of what we did, right? I didn't appreciate it nearly as much back then as I do now.
Of course, yeah.
But again, it's to that point, we never get to clock out. We're always on here.
Yeah, no, it's great. So Nikki, so to kind of, one thing before we get to this. So where do you see... Both of you, you've been in the business, you've seen it kind of evolve, you've seen it.
Lots of changes.
Where do you see the business in 5 years? You see anything drastically different with brokerage model, realtors entering, leaving the market? Do you see anything drastically different?
Well, I personally think a lot of people are going to plummet from the market. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. Yeah. Because again, this is the biggest investment of somebody's life and too many people treat it as if it is not. I mean, I think the cream always rises to the top. Yeah. And it's one of these, I only work with sellers. As of 3 years ago, I no longer work with buyers. So that's probably going to be a great question for Nikki. But I don't see, from what I do, I don't see it much. The way I do business has always been the same. The paperwork might be different. It's more about caring about the person, knowing what they need to do, being able to help them through it. That's the basics. It doesn't change. Yeah. But I think in terms of, so many people are always trying to go after the shiny penny or, here's a new program that's going to help you be more successful. It's not about that. It's about genuinely caring about the client, the customer, getting them to realize that, doing the best you can for them, and your business is going to grow from there. Yeah, I mean, it's all about referrals. Yeah, no, it's not about the shiny penny. It's so true, and I think that's a great takeaway. In rates, it doesn't matter. I mean, I called people telling me it was down to 10 and 3 points because I didn't know any better. There's a lot to be said for that. Yeah, absolutely. My mom's thinking, oh, God, they were at like 19, 20. Now they're down. None of that is all noise. Yeah. The bottom line is people still need to buy homes. People still need to sell them. It's a matter of just doing the best job you can, having amazing relationships with people within the industry. And I think that's even more important today, especially with all the change as far as in the buyer's concessions, because the bottom line is that's why, for example, when Nikki goes up against all these multiple offers, 99% of the time she wins, because not only does she have the best lender on it, the best team, but they know she's going to bring it to the finish line. And more importantly, they know her, they like her, they trust her, they respect her.
Yeah.
That's what people have to realize. That's what gives you longevity in this business.
That's great. It's funny because you said something that just reminded me. The other day, I had a moment where I stopped and I said, "Oh my God, I sound like Kathy Miles."
It's happening to you too.
It happened. I said the bottom line is, and then I instantly thought of you.
Oh my God, that's so
you always
funny.
say that to me. I said it. I was like, I'm sounding like Kathy now.
I don't know if I should congratulate you or
No,
say
it's
I'm
good.
sorry.
It's good. I like it. So where do you think, obviously you have a very different perspective being newer in the business.
Absolutely. I think, overall there's been so much changes throughout this entire industry, right?
Yeah.
Especially over the course of this past year. I think, a lot of people are right now there's a good portion of people, and especially agents who are in the industry who maybe been doing it significantly longer than some of us who don't have 35 years under our belt, that are so wrapped up in this. The reality is, as she would say, the bottom line is you can't change it, right? This is now here. This is now since August 17th, the concession has now been implemented. We can't change it. So either people are going to choose to evolve and move forward and accept it, or stay bogged down of, well, it used to be like this, right? And I think that's where it's really going to separate. And I think, I'm ecstatic for that, right? Because I've been doing my buyer boot camp since before all this took place. And, again, it all comes down to education and making informed decisions. And I think, the agents who recognize that, right, and have that same viewpoint as I do, we're all going to be just fine and have, plenty of Miles team generations to come. And that won't be the case for others.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So where I want to end is two things. So Nikki, I'll ask you first, okay? What's one thing, you have this great legacy that you're kind of, obviously building. It's inspiring for a lot of people, but, what's the one thing about your mom that inspires you each and every day?
Oh my goodness. There's so many things, honestly, and I don't want to be here all day talking about this. But I think what comes to mind first is my mom just has the ability that people always feel so valued and recognized and seen by her. And we live in a world where everyone is so busy and everyone is so bogged down in what they have going on, that my mom is one of those people, when she asks, "How are you?" she means it. And wants to genuinely know how you're doing. And isn't one of those people where because I'm having a bad day and they'd say, "Okay, well, that's great. I'm called because of this," right? She'd say, "Oh my gosh, where are you? Can I take you to lunch?" Right? And that is something where I strive to emulate and duplicate that, just because, again, the ability that she has to make people just feel so cherished, I think is my favorite thing about her.
That's awesome. So, and again, it's so much of who both of you are and why people want to work with you, because they do really respect that. So Kathy, I know the answer to this, but what makes you proud when you look at the journey that you've been on and you see Nikki, kind of following in your footsteps? What is, the thing that you're most proud of? Because obviously business is great. Okay.
Very blessed.
And it's I'll just say it personally and myself, like, it's great to raise someone that you work with and that's successful in business. That's all you can ever ask for. And that's hard enough.
It is.
But it's even harder, to raise a daughter who is as respectful. You're a very, old soul, you're not, you don't fit the normal, people in your age group. You have this this very mature, very great take, hearing you talk about the business. It's very unique. So I'm not speaking for you. I'm giving you a minute to think about it a little bit. But
to narrow down, so we're not here for a week, right? You're helping her out.
You saying that.
But I'm just saying, it's, as a mom, you can't ask for anything more than to raise a great daughter.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there something, though, that you're most proud of when you think of,
obviously Nikki is beyond gorgeous from the outside.
Yeah.
And people, whenever they tell me how pretty she is, honestly, I just say thank you. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
What means the most to me is how unbelievably beautiful her heart is.
Yeah.
She just goes out of her way to always make sure there's room for one more at the table. You know, she just always wants people to also feel loved and appreciated. The seniors I work with, oh my gosh, they love her. I mean, now I think it's a matter of, do we want to call Kathy or do we want to call Nicole? Her heart is so beautiful and pure, and she always does the right thing. You know, as a parent, like with Jake, you want him to be happy, you want him to be healthy, you want him to be successful, but you just really want him to be a good person, because that's the stuff that lasts. She has the most beautiful heart, and I'm just so proud to be her mom and business partner and her best friend. And that's there's so many things, but her heart is definitely
That's great.
number one.
That's great. And, you know, I'll just say to end, Kathy and Nikki have appointed themselves
Proudly.
proudly as the president and vice president. Is
Yes,
that?
that's it. Yeah.
That is one place we fight, because she
Okay.
thinks she
There
can
you
take
go.
on.
Okay.
You
Okay.
asked
She wants to
right.
take on the president's role. She's
Yeah.
not. I'm the president of your fan club.
Yep.
She's the vice president.
Okay.
Never going to change my love.
Okay. So, and it sounds funny and we joke about it. But
it's true.
But it's true. And the way that you've treated my team, the way you treat my team, the way you talk about my team, you know, we've gone out and then all of a sudden I find out the next day you guys all were hanging out with everyone, you know, the next day, which, you know, always concerns me because I, you know, it's, you know, I don't want
never
anyone
know.
like, you know, I want to be responsible for everyone. And, you know, but you've been amazing to my wife, as I said.
Love her.
And well, we
Love
work
Jake.
together and we have a business relationship. It's been an absolute pleasure of mine. And I have to tell you, you know, Tom and I always laugh, you know, when you call us, okay?
I already know where we're going with
Yeah.
this.
And you end the call, you always throw us for a little bit of a loop because you end the call and you say, I love you.
I do
Okay.
love you.
You know, sometimes we, you know, stutter because we're just not used to, you know, but it means a lot because it's more than just a transaction. You know, you've been there to help Tom. You've been there to help me. You've been there to help every single person on my team. And I just, you know, from the bottom of my heart, like, I just want to tell you both, like, it means more than you will ever know, because in this business, as I started off, you meet a lot of people. Okay.
do.
And you don't really get that appreciation for what you do. I don't
It's
do this
expected.
because I don't do this for a pat on the back. You know, I don't do it because someone's going to write me a review. Those things are all great. When I talk with you, I always am walking away from the conversation or with Nikki with a smile on my face. You know, we're laughing in the office because we're talking about something that happened or whatever. And there's very few people throughout the day that I will end every single phone call smiling. So I just want to say thank you for that. And it's just been an absolute pleasure, you know, getting to know both of you on a personal level, a business level. And I just wanted to say thank you for that because it's been our pleasure.
And we thank you because
Absolutely.
it started
And thank you
purely
for
as business.
And thank you for taking such good care of my team. You know,
Love them.
My team, you know, will always comment on how great both of you are to them. So
Well, they are amazing, and
Yeah.
they deserve the kudos.
well, thank you. Thank you.
deserve
So I'm glad we got a chance to do this. I know we'll do it again.
Love it.
I know we, you know, have a lot more families to help and stories to
Absolutely.
tell. And
Yeah.
I'm
We do.
interested to see your
Absolutely.
growth.
Yeah.
And before we leave, I just want to say, you know, Nikki has just done such an amazing job. And as much as I helped you that evening,
Oh, you did.
it wasn't as much as you would think, because you knew what to do. You really just needed someone to bounce, you know, an idea off of.
You're so right,
Or
yeah.
should I do this or whatever? Like you know, you had a great teacher and you knew what to do, even though it was your first transaction. It's just you needed that kind of assurance. So
I needed the Eric Hamilton. You got this.
I didn't do that much. I'll take credit for it.
Take
'Cause I'll
credit, 'cause
never-
she gives
yeah.
it to you all the time.
I like the story. It sounds good, but you handled that. You know, I was just kind of a sounding board, really. So,
Thank you.
you know, amazing work. It's been a pleasure. So just thank you for taking some time
You know
to
how
meet
much
with
I
us.
love you.
Yeah,
I'm so
Thank you.
proud of
yeah.
you.
Thank you so much. So until next time.
Bye-bye.